Like and subscribe for daily videos. What was your high school's wildest NSFW scandal? The football star at my high school was accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year, and it was his senior year. He had a full-ride scholarship to play football and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence, so he was released. This was in summer 2017 and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him, who did it. Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing and they're married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. Sad thing is that one of the attorneys knew that it wasn't him who molested the boy. The attorney was friends with the family of the guy who actually did it. An English teacher would make out with a student during his planning period while his wife was teaching classes next door. After school, he would make excuses to his wife about having to stay late at school and meet the student at hotel rooms. He was led out of the school in handcuffs in front of the entire school. Funny enough, the cops gave him the opportunity to go out the back door of the school and not make a scene, but he refused. Our science teacher was a porn star in a past life. Someone in the school found a video she was in his dad's porn stash. It was a huge scandal in our conservative town. She was let go, which sucked because she was really an excellent teacher. It became a national news story. She was on Dr. Phil about it. Despite numerous campaigns by the students, she was never hired back. I actually witnessed this. Two students with mental disabilities went to the toilet together. Exactly what you think happened. The teachers forced the door open to stop them. End result of this, the parents of both students each argued that neither had the capacity to give consent. Both students were sent to court on rape charges against each other. Of course it was their parents' choice to do this. Charges were dismissed in the end though. But that was one hell of a month for everyone in the know. Not even a scandal, just a widely accepted rumor. English teacher was purported to select one male per senior class to try and woo and sleep with. My friend claimed his older brother was that year's selection, prodding him to strive to do the same. Unfortunately for him, another, uninterested, buddy actually was. Resulting in her petting his arm, giggling at his jokes, bending over in front of him, etc. She left to become a principal at a different district a few years later. In my school, one of the female PE teachers was secretly in a relationship with her 7th grade daughter's best friend, also a 7th grade girl. The daughter caught them and nobody would believe her, so she bought a spy alarm clock from the school book fair and recorded them to turn it into the police to prove it. I felt awful that even her father didn't believe her. The soccer coach was sleeping with 4 of the soccer players, 16 to 18 years old, 2 of them being other teachers' daughters. They had it completely secret until his wife found a journal where he wrote about each time he slept with each girl on the team. At the end of the school day we walked out and there was 4 to 5 cop cars and they were walking him out of his building in cuffs. If I remember correctly, the girls didn't have to come back to school for the rest of the school year. It was close to the end anyway. Everyone found out their names pretty quickly. Biggest scandal at that school in decades. Long story short, a student was caught having sex with a sheep at the tiny farm the school ran for the agricultural elective students. Edit. So, since it's been asked a few times, the only slightly longer part of the story was that the class was, as stated, an agriculture elective. Once a student had completed enough required worksheets, they got to go over to the farm and do some work instead of sitting in class writing. Not exactly easy, but it was nice when the weather was cool. This guy had the class for both morning sessions, so he said he'd just stay over at the farm and get a ride back at the end of the next class. Well, amongst other incidents, he was not the brightest bulb in the box. Seems he lost track of time and the next class came walking up to the barn with him balls deep in the sheep. Word was, the sheep didn't seem to notice. A girl from my high school sucked Lil Pump's D on Instagram. A kid apparently jacked off in the back of the class. Someone apparently got it on their phone. Cops came, person who recorded it got charged. He sat where I did, but in a different class period. So I switched my chair for a new, less nutty, Chair. Turns out, every other class before me had also switched the chair, so we couldn't find the nut chair. We even made black lights with our phones to look for the chair. It was great. This was a year or two after I graduated, but there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for, in no particular order of weirdness, buying booze for students, smoking weed with students, buying weed for students, buying weed from students, writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed, driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away, sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life, but I want it with you," offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school, explaining it thus: "If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box with a knife in it. Kiddo, you can't walk around campus with marijuana on you." She was the scripture teacher. That position, at that school, at least when I was there, was as cursed as the defense against the dark arts job at Hogwarts. One of our history teachers had been a stripper before becoming a teacher. This was years earlier. She was a stripper before she even went to college to get her teaching degree. We found out about this because the father of one of my classmates had been a regular customer of hers and recognized her at a student-teacher conference. He told his son, who obviously told the entire school. We had this kid who was super pissed about his ex-girlfriend getting with a new guy, so decided he was going to kill the new guy right in front of her. Their class was all lined up outside for gym and he walks up to the guy, goes to pull the gun out of his pants, accidentally hit the trigger, and shoots himself in the D, and through his thigh. He ran just far enough to collapse on my English teacher's doorstep. He survived. I think this happened right after I graduated, but I was still friends and neighbors with the PE teacher. One day while changing, one of the students thought it would be funny to shit in his own hand, carry it into the gym, and throw it at his friend who had already changed and was waiting for class to start. The teacher was too shocked to do anything at first, but it splattered off the other kid's shirt and then that kid started projectile vomiting. It started a chain reaction, and multiple students started dry heaving and then puking onto the gym floor, running out. The gym was closed down for like 2 weeks and had to be repainted, the hardwood floors refinished. The kid who carried out the shitfest received no punishment from the school and the teacher moved to a different school the next year. Also, the wrestling coach got arrested for possession of child pornography and inappropriate behavior with a few students. My math teacher literally woke up one day, murdered his wife, arranged things so it looked like a suicide, emptied her bank account and went on to have a normal teaching day at school. We even had a mass, Catholic school, for her weeks later and he faked grief through it all. We found out months later during school recess. The music teacher was having an affair with another teacher, I think from the language department. His wife found out and he got kicked out. Rumor has it he ended up living in the back of the music room for a few months. Another teacher was on her period and tried to smear her blood on the science desks, which were slightly higher than your waist. Seemed strange, but later she got arrested for doing coke. A guy sitting his exam needed a piss, but instead of asking to be excused, he thought the best course of action was to have a wank. Another student brought in wine and got drunk before our first lesson. I'm late to this, but a kid in my high school's family was legit keeping slaves in his basement. One of them escaped and ran to a Dunkin' Donuts and they were freed and parents charged. The slaves were chained in the basement and covered in cigarette burns. The kid never showed up to school again. The whole school was divided between hating him and feeling bad for him. Some thought he should have reported his family. Others thought he was likely a victim of abuse himself. Crazy shit. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for daily videos.